Hello, good afternoon. This is Fernando Hinojosa, Head of Procurement Process and System and Strategic Sourcing in Acciona Infrastructure, and also responsible for the supplier management area at Acciona Corporation. So first of all, thank you for attending and for inviting me to do a little bit introduction to our panelists later on. Yes, brief introduction, joining Acciona in 2019, always working in the supply chain and procurement area in other multinational companies, and like enough in the field that I really like. And now enjoying working in Acciona. Let me briefly introduce in the next slide some key lights of Acciona. No? First of all, let me tell you, Acciona is a purpose driving company. Okay, if you go to the website, you see that our goal is to make a positive contribution to society and to the planet, no? Providing sustainable solutions to the most urgent issues such as climate warming, global warming, sorry, and water scarcity. Okay, so that defines us a little bit for those that doesn't know our company. Okay, we work in different, we work globally in the whole world, together with my colleague Maria Reyes, who will be afterwards. We are traveling from Australia to Chile and worldwide, so we have global scope and also different sectors: energy, water, construction, services. So quite a variety of scope. Okay, so you can see here some figures from our annual results of last year. No, I think you can see it, 41,000 employees. No, sustainability in Acciona is, I think, has been in our ADN for a long time ago. It's not a recent event. I mean, we are carbon neutral since 2016. Okay, and we are oriented to fulfill the SDGs. Okay, and we are trying and intending to lead a new sector, the low carbon activities. Okay, sector. That's our main. How do we leverage this in Acciona? I think there's a big important tool which in where procurement is quite involved, and where I'm going to try to give you briefly our strategy. I think we leverage based in our sustainability master plan. We are in our third plan. This is a strategic plan that is come from top to bottom to all the companies. Okay, and is where our strategy in sustainability relies on. Okay, we just started. Well, I mean, it was 2020, one new cycle that PDS, we call PDS 2025, called regenerative by design. Okay, this is the plan where we work. Let me tell you the importance of this plan for us. That is that 90% of our procurement staff worldwide has personal objective related to this plan. So that gives you reference of how important it is to us. Okay, and let me give you two pillars or pillars of this plan where we're talking about today. It's people-centric, planning is positive, ex-leadership, integrity, and transform. But let me remark too, people-centric. We are focused in our company and our supply chain in the social dimension, and in planet positive, we are focused in not being only net zero, but go beyond and try to bring to provide a positive impact. Okay. I think some figures. I mean, we are present in many indices, ratings, and related to sustainability. Here you have a bunch of them. Let me remark that we are involved in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index in Europe, which recognizes us in the highest sustainability standards across all the European companies. Okay. Also, let me also remark something that we're very proud in the procurement area. We have been recognized as CDP Supplier Engagement Leader in 2021. That recognize our effort to reduce emissions and risk into and with our supply chain. That's something where we are very proud. So this briefly what is Acciona and how important and how sustainability is our ADN not only in the business. Okay, so if I move on, okay, how do we transmit this strategy into our procurement area and function? We have three clear pillars, which are focusing the assurance of the social safeguards and decarbonization. Okay, first of all, and this is quite important for us, for a long time ago, we are keeping a policy of zero supplier without due compliance. I mean, that could sound easy, but it is not. I mean, it's challenging, and it is challenging. And let me tell you why. First of all, we manage more than 60,000 suppliers. We are, as I told you, all in the different sectors in many different countries, and with a and due to the nature of our projects, EPC projects, the rotation of our suppliers is quite high. Okay, so managing 60,000 suppliers is not easy task. It's not an easy task. Okay, and also, you know, I mean, our standards in social and environmental requirements in Acciona are quite, let's say, strong. Okay, but also the law is moving forward, and it's moving forward and fast. New laws, Australian slavery, slavery at UK, modern slavery at. So we have to continually adapt ourselves. How do we tackle that? With solid processes, solid technology, and good partners inside and outside Acciona. Okay, we have to avoid to our philosophy is we have to avoid to insert somehow a Troy horse in our supply chain. Second pillar, I think this is important. We feel leaders and we feel strong on this matter. So we are trying also to promote and support those smaller companies or those that are not such advanced into their ESG development. So we put our efforts, okay, and it's our commitment to support them, okay. And we're trying, we'll see afterwards, we're trying to change from a red card philosophy to our suppliers to a feedback reward, which we really believe is really more constructive, let me say. And the third pillar, introduce the panelists afterwards, is alliances with our key suppliers to develop net zero materials. Why? Because we are solutions provider, but we have very good and solid and key suppliers and partners which are experts in their matters, concrete, steel, pumps, whatever. So we have implemented a strategic sourcing organization where our category managers, our key suppliers work together in order to find the best alternative solutions, focus on decarbonization in order to implement them in our different projects. Okay, so these are basically the three pillars of our strategy based in our SMP that I introduced briefly before. So just give me 5 minutes to go through these three. Also, one philosophy for us important is, next slide, sorry. The better supply chain, the better it makes us. We really believe us, okay? So what we do not only risk management, we are moving forward and we are doing opportunity management. Of course, we are doing risk management, and we are monitoring our suppliers, okay, in order to avoid any compliance or environmental risk, okay. But important, we are changing to a feedback and monitoring. And it's important. Let's give you figures. Last year, we did 237 audits to our suppliers. 58% of them, due to proposed improvement plans, really improve them and really make a step forward in order to develop themselves in ESG matters. Okay, that's something that we're really proud of. Okay, and of course we are focused on social safeguard. We work in different zones, areas where social safeguard needs to be worked harder than in others, and we are really focused on that part as well. Okay, opportunities, as told you before, we have the opportunities to work with very good suppliers, with very good partners in win-win programs where we work together to get this new alternative and try to promote this what we call positive regenerative alternative. We will talk afterwards about that. Okay, so we come back to the three pillars before. Let's jump into the first one, that it was zero suppliers. We do compliance in the next slide, okay? And let me tell, because I think it's time to talk about facts and not only words, okay? Let me tell you what we have done in the last 2 years and what are we trying to work in the future, in the next incoming years, and we're working hard for that, okay? We have developed a supply management model that we're able to provide to our buyers visibility on 11 risk and opportunity variables, among others, ESG, ethics, and integrity. Think the following: we are reaching out of our 52,000 suppliers, 49. It means more than 93% of our suppliers are being monitored, okay, and are being and we can take a look at them in order to make us to make us easier the decision of the proper awards, okay? And also we have what we call no-go policies. We try to implement, we implement our no-go policies is what we call, we cannot hire those suppliers or those trying to be partners with significant ethical and integrity risk, okay? Or those that has not demonstrated compliance with the UN Global Compact, for example, okay? So far, every year, we're getting and reporting 0% of purchases of companies with this status, okay? This is what we have done so far. What are we doing in the next 2 years? We know we have a very good process and system and organization, but we want to one step beyond. We don't want to focus on those suppliers where we are consuming the highest volume of business. We want to focus on even on those suppliers, small suppliers, where they have some more relevant risks, and we want to help them. And we want to creating a catalog of improvement plan for them. So we are enriching our supplier management model based on ESG criteria and improvement plans. That's a very step forward that hopefully we will talk soon at the end of the year, and we will implement till 2025, onboarding all suppliers. So that's the first pillar. Second pillar, as I introduced you before, support and guide the supply chain. Let me give you two facts important from last year. First, one Acciona Corporate University Supplier Campus. This is something that is perpetual. It's not only for last year. It's available and free of charge for 100% of full of our supply chain. Always there with course catalogs and some to support them and to help them to make their development. Last year, we reported that 11% of our total subcontracted, which is a huge volume, were interested in receiving these courses. So far it's an exit. It's a success that we have to continue to improve. And let me also give you a little bit of an initiative where we are very proud. It's small, but it's a big step forward. We launched it in Spain last year for more than 500 Spanish companies, small and medium enterprise, not big ones, okay? A program which was designed and 100% founded by Acciona in order is to let them know, measure, and improve their sustainability with 5 workshops and some. Those that were able to finalize them and we're willing to do so, we have recognized them internally and we have identified them as preferred bidder list. We want to have those companies that are making their efforts as our preferred bidders and in our supply chain. I think something small but gives a good representation of our philosophy. What are we working? A lot of initiative, but believe me, it's continuous improvement on these catalogs and this kind of initiative. But this is one of our pillars that we're really looking forward, working on it. Okay, and just finalizing in the last slide and introducing our panelists. our alliance with our suppliers. We have been working for a long time. 2021 was a good year as a inflection point. Let me call it, I think I get ready in 2021. We changed the mission of our buyers, our category manager. We say, okay, you are not here also to only to make the best suppliers in terms of price and quality. They are also here to provide positive, regenerative, alternative, and develop sustainability. We changed their mission, which is an important step. We trained them. We did and designed an in-house training with a lot of effort and with external and internal partners to train them. We implemented platforms in order to, once their initiative were not all in the head, also roll out to our different projects all over the world. So we got ready. Proudly, we can say that this year, us together with our partners, we are delivering. Through our decarbonization fund, we have achieved projects such the use of concrete and steel with low CO2 emissions in public schools, like in Torrevieja, together with Celsa and CEMEX. We have implemented our first electric machines at project site to see how they operative and how and focus on reducing the CO2 emission. So these are the first steps. These are our first experience. We are very proud of them. And our opportunities for the future is to continue to develop this initiative in another categories, okay? And also to see how we can implement this and fund this alternative. So I don't know if I a little bit delay, but in any case, let me first say thank you to giving you this opportunity. And second one, let me give you the opportunity to introduce Maria de los Reyes Pardo, which is our construction procurement director, who will moderate a very interesting panel discussion related to what just introduced. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fernando, for this presentation. And thank you for inviting me to this roundtable. I would like to introduce two professionals that belong to two companies that are key partners for Acciona and in the construction business, and that we have been collaborating the last couple of months to try to reach our, let's say, first milestone in trying to get the decarbonization of the supply chains, which it was actually quite success. And first of all, I would like to introduce you Andrew Spencer, VP Corporate Affairs, Sustainability and ERM CEMEX EMEA region. Hello, Andrew. Nice to have you here in this roundtable. It's interesting. Thank you for coming. And on the other part of the table, the fictional table, obviously, I would like to introduce you Juan Carlos Orozco, Chief Strategy and Sustainability Officer from Celsa Group. Thank you also for being here. It's a pleasure to share this roundtable with you. Andrew, given your huge experience in this area of sustainability and REM, can you explain a little bit what is CEMEX decarbonization strategy, and what do you think are the main challenges ahead for all of us, obviously, because we are, as partners, we are facing the same challenge.
Absolutely, and thank you very much for the invite to the panel. So, when in CEMEX, we firmly believe that the climate change is one of society's biggest challenges, and that we have a real moral and business obligation to tackle it. So we've set some very ambitious targets for both 2030 and 2050. At a global company level, by 2030, we want to decarbonize by 40% compared to our 1990 baseline. And in our European region, we've set a more ambitious target to decarbonize by 55% by 2030. And by 2050, we want to be a carbon neutral company. And the way that we're addressing this is through a program that we've called Future in Action. And our Future in Action program has 6 pillars, which help us to address all of the different components of the challenge for us. So they range from introducing and developing and investing in more sustainable products and solutions for our customers, to actively decarbonize our operations, to invest in circular economy, biodiversity and water initiatives, to support and prosper around innovation and partnering with companies both up and below us in the supply chains, and finally to advocate for regulations that support decarbonisation both in the industry and in the construction sector in general. And longer term, we'll be looking at investing in solutions such as carbon capture, utilisation and storage. But the audience might find it interesting to know that we're confident that we can decarbonise our business by 55% by 2030 using technologies that are proven in operation today. So that's a summary of where we are, and our company's roadmaps have been validated by the Science Based Targets Initiative to the well below 2 degree scenario, and we've just submitted our data to be validated for the new 1.5 degree scenario.
Then I suppose that would imply a huge investment in the next couple of years for the manufacturing premises, right?
Absolutely. I mean, sustainability, just like yourselves, is not a new topic for us. We've been working on this for decades, but the acceleration of our decarbonisation is enormous. As a global company, we achieved a 4.7% reduction last year. And of course, that does involve significant investment, both in our operations, but also in research and development to make sure that the products that we can offer our customers that are lower carbon actually perform in the way that our customers and our stakeholders would expect. And that's where our investments have been so far.
Thank you. Juan Carlos, there are some kind of discussions in the market around what is the definition of green steel? What is then your view regarding how we should define green steel actually?
Yes, Reyes, you are totally right. First of all, we have to take into account that there are 2 ways, 2 routes of producing steel. The traditional one is in a blast furnace, using iron ore and coal as raw materials. This is the way that the human beings have been producing steel for the last 3,000 years. And in the late 1950s, there was a new technology that allowed us to produce steel out of scrap in electric arc furnaces. The difference from a sustainability point of view, if you use the integrated route, the iron ore route or the scrap route, are huge because of 2 reasons. First, regarding carbon footprint, because when you produce steel out of iron ore in a blast furnace, the emissions of CO2 are on average 2 tons of CO2 per ton of steel. While when you produce steel out of scrap in an electric arc furnace, the emissions on average can be around 250 kilos of CO2 per ton of steel. So the integrated mills, the blast furnaces, emit 9 times more CO2 than the electric arc furnaces. And the second difference is related to circularity. The integrated mills, they use natural resources, iron ore and coal, while in Celsa we produce steel in electric arc furnaces and we use only scrap. In their case, the blast furnaces producers use around 15%, 20% scrap, and the rest is iron ore and coal. So the recycled component of that steel is 15%. And in our case, is when we produce carbon steel, is more than 90%, the component of scrap, recycled steel. And when we produce a specialty steel, more than 70%. That is, these two figures are important because they are included in the European taxonomy in order to be aligned to the European taxonomy. So now there is a discussion about what should be green. And from Celsa point of view is if a product can be produced, the very same product, a profile, a rebar, can be produced through one route or the other one, the greener one should be, the greenest one should be the one that has the lowest emissions according to the best available technology. In this case, electrical furnaces. We understand that the blast furnaces producer need time, a lot of time, 10, 15 years in order to decarbonize. They will need to invest a lot in CapEx for a lot of years. They will receive public aid probably because the investment is huge. But this is one thing, the transition period that they need in order to decarbonize. And the other thing is how we define what is green steel. We cannot mislead the market and the customer. We cannot say that a product with higher emissions is greener than the other one just because it has been produced in a blast furnace. I'm sorry, if this is a rebar, and the one that is greener is the one with the lowest emissions, period.
Now we just have to work in the energy cost, right? That is the only problem right now.
Yes, you are right.
Circular and greener, but the energy cost is something that we have to work right now. Andrew, coming back to you. What do you think, or what is your opinion? How can we make faster progress in achieving decarbonization goals to curb climate change?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think that the answer is by working together and partnering more. Our Scope 1 CO2 emissions are our customers' Scope 3 emissions. So we need to be working with customers that have ambitious targets of their own, that really want to drive the agenda. Of course, making changes to long-established traditions of product procurement and the types of product that we use in markets and in construction needs collaboration together. And I think that this example that we're talking about today is a good example about how to accelerate decarbonisation, working together, setting common goals and ambitions, and working towards solutions so that we can mutually meet our targets as as different organizations.
So at the end we have to partner with each other to try to reduce these CO2 emissions. That is the message.
Absolutely correct.
Okay. Juan Carlos, can you explain a little bit what is the base of Celsa Group's value proposition to the construction sector, or your strategy?
Yes, our value proposition to the construction sector and also to the automotive industry, that is also a main sector of our customers, is based again in the two pillars. The first one is that because we are producing in Europe in electrical furnaces, we are benchmarked in low carbon footprint. This is the case. So this is the basic product that we can supply to our customer. But in case the customer is interested, we can offer the same product produced with green energy with a higher cost. This is clear. And finally, if the customer is interested, we can even buy a carbon offset in order to reduce to zero the carbon emissions. Although carbon offset, this is something that is just depending on if the customer asks for it or not, because we would prefer to be green in a real way and not by carbon offsets. And the second pillar is circularity, as I have mentioned before. That is, in case we are supplying carbon steel, the component of recycled steel, scrap, must be higher than 90%, and in the case of a specialty steel, higher than 70%. We are also working with some customers, especially in the automotive industry, and we would like to do something similar in the construction sector to close the loop. So to buy from our customers the scrap, their waste, in order to melt it again and to sell this scrap again to the same customer, to the very same customer, in a closed loop when it is possible. But this is something that is just starting.
And the proper qualities of the steel will be the same?
Yes.
When want to close the cycle? I mean.
Yes, because steel has an advantage, a huge advantage, that is infinite time recyclable. There are very few products that can say the same. Aluminium, perhaps, but even, for instance, paper can be recycled 9 times, but not anymore. But in the case of steel, once you have melted the scrap and you have liquid steel, you can produce a product when the correct composition of the steel, obviously, that is just the same as when you have produced this product out of iron ore. In some cases, because of the grade of steel, the current technology, you can only produce those products using iron ore as raw material. But when we talk about long products in general, you can produce these products out of iron ore in a blast furnace or out of scrap in electrical furnaces. And as I have said at the beginning, from a sustainability point of view, the differences are huge.
Okay, Andrew, what is your opinion about, let's say, such important companies as yours, as CEMEX or Celsa, which are huge companies leading this change? Do you think they have more prominent and responsible role and to play in achieving these decarbonization goals of the supply chain? Or do you think you are the starters and then they will follow up, the other companies, smaller companies and so on? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think that, you know, as large and leading organizations with clear ambition, you know, we really have a clear and very important role to play, particularly in the partnership context that we're talking today. You know, I think we have a moral obligation to recognise that climate change is an issue that needs addressing. We have a business imperative for all of our operations, commonly in this panel, that in order to be successful in a low carbon economy, you know, we have to change, we have to adapt to new circumstances. But I think the scale of our relative companies here is that, you know, we have the ability and the knowledge to be able to test new technologies, to share those technologies around our large global organizations across multiple countries. And as a result, we can share that best practice. And, you know, one of the challenges I think many of us face is testing and scaling new technology for the future. And it's very difficult sometimes for small organizations to do that. So with us leading, we can really support the move towards a low carbon economy and you know, help to bring larger quantities of organizations with us on that journey. And I think it's also important for us all to give confidence to our stakeholders that, you know, we are on this journey and that actually we will achieve our ambitions together. So, you know, really welcome having this discussion on this topic today.
Thank you. Juan Carlos, I think we have already talked about this, but I'm going to ask you again just for clarity. What is your opinion? How do you think Celsa Group could contribute to developing the circularity of the construction sector? I think you have mentioned before something in that way, but if you want to get deeper in the discussion about it.
Yes, sure, Reyes. Well, first of all, we think that we are a reference regarding circular economy. We are perhaps the biggest circular supply chain in Europe. You have to bear in mind that we are the second recycler of scrap in Europe. We recycle 8 million tons of scrap every year, plus 2.5 million tons of other byproducts, co-products, you can call it waste. You have to think that the scrap that is recycled has a value in euros and a weight in kilos that is higher than the recycled paper, glass, and plastic together. So when we say that Celsa is the second recycler of scrap of Europe, it means that we are the second recycler of Europe, right? So as I have said before, we would like to close the loop, taking into account that we are so important player in the circular economy in Europe. We are doing some proof of concept with construction companies in the UK in order to in a demolition, to melt the scrap that we can get in the demolition and then to transform this scrap in steel that will be used in a new building in the very same place. This is an example. Or in the case of Spain, we are working with European tire producer. We would sell to them the steel that is inside the tire. It is not only rubber. What normally in a tire we see the rubber, but inside there are a lot of steel. So when they can recover the used tires, they can sell the steel that was used in their tires to us. We melt it and we sell again the steel to them in order to produce new tires. So these are examples of closing the loop, and even working with blockchain, we want to give to this European company traceability that this steel is just the same, let's say.
Juan Carlos, I'm going to ask you now a little bit tricky question out of the book, let's say. Do you think, or can you imagine that maybe in a few years the steel sector is going to be able to transform scrap into steel with another source apart from electricity? Let's say green hydrogen, for example. Maybe I'm saying something crazy, but I don't know.
Well, our consumption of energy in the group is 7 gigawatts every year. Practically 60% of it is electricity. The remaining 40% is natural gas. When we melt the steel, we need very, very high power. Okay. And for this, today, only electricity can be the source of this power. But obviously, we hope that in the next years, we will have green energy. And perhaps we can include nuclear or not for the next 20, 30 years. So this is under discussion. But for sure, at the end of the day, we will have, no Celsa, everybody will have 100% green energy. So this will not be a problem. There will be a transition period. But at the end of the day, electricity will be green. And then when we melt the scrap, we get a semi-product that is called billet, and this billet must be reheated. And we reheat this billet in a reheating furnace, where today we use natural gas. Then in order to reduce our scope 1, because this natural gas that we burn is scope 1 for us, in order to reduce our scope 1 to 0, we need to change this natural gas by another thing. And there are two possibilities. One is biogas, and the second one is hydrogen. But again, hydrogen must be green. So the electrolyzer must use green energy in order to transform this green energy into green hydrogen. So answering your question, we will continue using electricity, but it will be green, and either we change natural gas by biogas or by green hydrogen.
Okay, that's some good news, I think. Andrew, coming back to you, what are the advantages of working hand in hand with companies that share the same vision and objectives on climate change? I think we have discussed that roughly, but maybe you want to add something else in that.
Yes. I think there are a number of advantages, and we have touched on some of them. And it's interesting that actually in this panel, all of us are working together. We are using some byproducts from Celsa to help us on our decarbonisation journey. So you can see how collaboration and working together is really driving the agenda forward. But I think my key point around this is that in order for us to meet our objectives as CEMEX, we need our customers to change their procurement practices and the products that they buy from us. If people continue to demand what they have had historically, it's going to be very difficult for us to make that change. And so sharing this ambition and working through the challenges and giving ourselves confidence that we can build more sustainable infrastructure and buildings for society together using these lower carbon products is a critical part of the pathway for all of us going forward. So I really want to emphasize that point.
And I think a forum like this is quite important so that we can be heard, and also obviously going hand by hand to convince the clients that it's the right path. Don't you agree, both of you? I think that is the right approach. Thank you, Andrew. Juan Carlos, can you explain a little bit how Celsa Group is working in its decarbonization and circularity plan? Or is there a plan? Obviously, I think yes. So that's you have been explaining in the last couple of minutes. But can you explain a little bit more about it?
Yes. Well, first of all, we have been tracking what has been the evolution of our emissions since 2006, and in the last 16 years, from 2006 until this year, 2022, we have been able to reduce our CO2 emissions by 39%. And we have done it by CapEx, this is clear, but not always by CapEx. For instance, I have told you that we need to reheat the billet and in the reheating furnace. So, but if we are able to load this billet hot, and sometimes we can do it at 600 degrees or even 800 degrees instead of 20 degrees, that is the normal temperature, let's say, then obviously we save a lot of energy because we have to go up to 1200 degrees in order to roll this billet. But if you start with 600 degrees, obviously it's much cheaper than if you have to heat again the billet from 20 degrees up to 1200. So if we are able to plan better our production, this transfer of billets from the melting shop to the rolling mill, just using brains or using our brains or using technology, we can save a lot of money and we can save energy. That is the best way to reduce emissions. So this is something that we are working on. Obviously, we need to reduce our scope 2 to 0 because we are one of the highest consumers of electricity in Europe. In order to do so, we will be working in PPAs, in power purchase agreement, and in order to reduce our scope 1, as I have said before, we need this biogas or this green hydrogen to be ready in the market at the industrial level, industrial scope. So our targets are the following: for 2030 to reduce our scope 1 and 2 by 50% and to be net positive in 2050, and to get value from our waste. We don't call it anymore waste, we call it co-products, by-products. To get value from our co-products, to valorize them, 90% of them by 2030 and 100% in 2050. And we will submit these targets to SBTi, but we have to wait until the end of the first quarter 2023, because at the beginning of next year, SBTi will publish the new targets accordingly to the science-based targets initiative for the steel sector. So we have to wait some months.
Luckily, Acciona can give you maybe biogas or green hydrogen or so on. Let's talk about that in another forum. Okay, Juan Carlos. A question to you both. I actually two questions to you both. The order in answering, I don't care, Andrew or Juan Carlos. The first question is, as Fernando explained before, we have collaborate in this Torrevieja project. This is public school. Andrew or CEMEX supplying low carbon grid, and Celsa supplying green steel. What kind of repercussion have you got after the news of the project in relation to your businesses? Something that are you seeing repercussions, positive repercussions, obviously, I'm not talking about, and that the people is more interested in going this path, or are only Acciona only the currency company that is going this path? So let's.
I'm happy to go first if you like, and I think that we always enjoy sharing communication of positive stories like this to try and inspire people to follow suit, and I think that we do receive some positive feedback around projects like this where we can show real demonstrable action of supplying lower carbon products. In this case, I think the product was around 40% lower CO2 compared to a traditional concrete, and also recognizing the collaboration to achieve it. And of course, our stakeholders want to see real action on the ground, not just people talking about setting targets for the future. So I think this news is also very positively received. I think as well, for us, our employees inside the company are inspired when they read stories like this, where we're working with our customers and our suppliers to drive the company's agenda forward. The climate action is an important part of our employees' engagement. So I think the combination of those means that this project in particular, and any others we do in the future, will always be positively received.
Thank you. Juan Carlos?
Yes, in our case, well, this is the first step. We are just starting the journey. So in order to do a journey, you have to do the first step, and this is what it is. So we have to explain it. Obviously, in Celsa, we are very proud, and we thank Acciona for thinking in us supplying this green steel together with this green cement, and so we have been able to produce the greener building in Spain. That is good news, obviously. We realize that, as I have said before, we sell to the automotive industry and to the construction sector. Let's say that the awareness of sustainability in the automotive sector is much higher than in the construction sector. And one of our sites is in Norway. And we realized also that in the Nordic countries, the awareness of the customers, of the banking community, the society in general, is much higher than in south of Europe. But on average in Europe is much higher, I would say, than in the States. And in the States is higher than in Asia. But someone should take the lead. So Europe is taking the lead, and this is good news for us. In the case of the construction in Southern Europe, Acciona is taking the lead, and we are very happy to work together with you.
Okay, and my last question I have to ask, because I'm procurement director, when are we going to consider that these new products are going to be a standard from the shelf, let's put it this way, and not having to say, okay, there is an extra cost because it's a new product and we are working on it. So when do you think it's going to come that is going to be stabilized and coming to standard prices so that the projects can be feasible as well? Because we have to think about it as well, that there are projects that can be made. We cannot think in reducing emissions if the projects cannot be made because of the cost. So What is your opinion about it?
If you'd like me to go first, happy to. And it's a tough question. I can't deny that. But
I had to ask. I'm procurement
Yeah,
director. I had to ask.
of course. But let me share some thoughts and insights. Really, I think that all of us are on a staged journey. So what we're seeing at the moment is the result of significant investment in research and development, new production practices, use of different materials, and quite often cost in terms of advocating for better product standards and building codes. So that's the sort of stage that we're at now, and I think we'll see some quite rapid normalization, particularly in the concrete sector around this, in probably between now and 2030. And of course, as new technology, new products begin to be manufactured at scale, we always get better economy with scale. I think that's a principle we all understand. Now, beyond 2030, I think that many people will be aware that in Europe and no doubt other geographies, we can see ahead of us the Green Deal, new regulations, government ambitions to drive towards greener economies. So I think we'll see stages of, investment, product development, that initial premium, and then normalization. And as we move as an industry into carbon capture, storage and utilization, maybe towards 2030 and beyond, we'll see another stage of that, but then it will normalize afterwards.
Thank you.
Yes, in our case, Reyes, I will tell you that, as I have said, we are reducing our emissions using our brains and digitalization, and I'm afraid that we will give this to our customers for free. So good news for you. But as I have told you, we need this green energy and green electricity and this biogas or green hydrogen. But as soon as this green electricity or green hydrogen will be a commodity, we will have normal prices. I agree with Andrew. It will not take so long. Perhaps today, because of the Ukraine war and the current situation of prices, we think that this will be forever. But I'm sure that human beings will be clever enough to do our homework, and that the fuel economy will decarbonize and the energy industry will be able to decarbonize. And then this green energy, in whatever the form, the shape of it, or the source of it, it will be a commodity, and then prices will be below.
Okay, I thank you both for your participation in this roundtable. It was very interesting talking to you and discussing several points. And also, I have to tell you, we are very proud to having working with you in this project in Spain. I hope it's going to be a success. You have to deliver now, yeah?
Sure.
I'm sure you are going to do it
all together.
Yeah. But
Thank
in
you.
any case, very proud to having this collaboration in this project. Everyone in Acciona is proud and informing everyone about this milestone for us. That is a huge step forward on the path that we have been following in the last 10 years. So thank you very much, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you very much to you.
Thank you very much to you as well. Thank you.